See it, because then I don't have to record it on my computer. Then it's just on YouTube. Uh, and people can zoom through it, or you can set YouTube on fast. Just a minute. Just a minute. Mute that. Okay. All right, let's see, where are we going here? Okay, let me close that out, and I'm going to open some things. Again, we always start out with some anatomy and some little bit of history for reminders of what's going on. So I just want to remind you about the true placement of the frog in the foot, its thickness, its what it's there for, its utilization, how the frog and the digital cushion work together. Now, the frog is a part of the capsule, and the digital cushion is a part of the foot. The foot is a whole foot covered with skin that has various parts on the inside. So we're going to take a quick look at this, like here, I'll show you. Okay, just a minute. Screen share. Okay, get things going here. Okay, so this is literally what happens to the foot right here. We know this is Chinese foot binding. They start, and this can happen to a young horse. If his foot, if he doesn't wear the frog and the periopal down and exfoliate it, then his foot can get bound like this, because the frog and the periopal will hold it there in the size it was when he was younger as his foot grows. Now, it also happens, you could have a horse that had now this foot is not an anatomically correct foot, because when I did this, this was my mare's foot that I barefoot trimmed for 10 years. And when she died, which was in 2016, okay, at that time, I did not know the truth about these cartilages yet, or about the coronary band here and the exact formation of the part that grows the heel buttress. So let me just kind of draw on that for a second, because we will look at a anatomically correct foot here in a little bit. Now, if we go back in history, we know that Bracy Clark, who was one of the first vets, and he specifically studied horseshoeing and the anatomy of the horse's foot. He is the one that coined the word periopal. He is the one that coined the word frog stay, because he found, first of all, farriers of the time had never really done any studies in anatomy. The first one to really do any study in anatomy was this guy named Lafosse from France, and he come up with some doctrines, beliefs about the anatomy that were in complete error, but because he was one of the first ones to kind of study it, and then he wrote it down. Let me tell you what, once it gets written down, it becomes like it's written in stone for people, especially back then, because there were so few books, comparatively speaking, to what we have now. If you had the money, to research and write a book and then print it and distribute it, people were enamored with the written word. The printing press had only been developed 2 centuries before. Books were still pretty expensive. And so if you wrote a book on something like this, since the horse was everything, the horse was the means of survival, the horse was the means of war, transporting goods, planting crops, getting from one place to the other, the horse was the main thing. So in the vet schools that started at the time, late 17th century, in the 1790s in France and England, were specifically for the horse. Okay, it wasn't until later that they branched out into more types of farm animals and small animals. Okay, so people didn't know the anatomy. So Lafosse, he started studying it. Usually this is how it worked. Medical doctors. I don't know if Lafosse was a medical doctor, but a lot of these people started out as medical doctors or in the study of human medicine. And this was still at the time when the beliefs in medicine were very antiquated. Men, they didn't even wash their hands yet. Okay, so these men, first men that studied, made observations, then that got written down and it became like it was written in stone. And so at first, the farriers, which were blacksmiths who did the horseshoeing, were the veterinarians for the horses also. And then they opened these schools, and then you had men that studied medicine and literally studied the anatomy, things like that. But this was all fresh. And so in their observations, they made mistakes in what they saw. But then when it got written down and got transferred back over to the farriers, it became like it was written in stone. All right. And it became the truth, whether it was or not. And then it got passed from generation to generation to generation to generation. And here we are today. So there are many things that were written way back then that absolutely are not true, but they got passed on by tradition. You know, most of the stuff that we learn, we just hear it and then we believe it and we just repeat it. Have you ever thought about that? You go to school and they tell you all this stuff and you learn it and then you just repeat it, but you're not the one that drew that conclusion. And what you were told, it may be true, it may not be true. See, man's knowledge changes as he learns more. Many times when you're researching something, there are things that you don't know. And so if you take all the things that you learn about a subject and you write them down, you add them up, then at the bottom of that, once you add all those things that you think are facts up, you draw a conclusion. And this conclusion becomes a doctrine or a belief of truth. That summation of all these things, all these different points about a subject, that becomes a truth, a teaching, what is also called a doctrine. And so here's the thing. What if you miss something? You know, I might know 30 things about a subject, but I've missed one. And yet, if I inserted that one, it could change the whole outcome, the whole summation, the whole conclusion. And so you have to be willing to open up and let that other fact in. Or let's say maybe they're all correct, but there's one that's wrong. That's going to change the whole conclusion as well. So you have to be willing not only to learn and to accept something new, but also to, if you learn during the process that something might be not correct, to remove it. Okay. And then you have to be willing to revisit what you think is right or wrong multiple times. See, I don't even trust myself. You know, I will go back again and again and again over certain issues to see if what I'm seeing is right. You know, little facts that get added in have big consequences. Okay. One thing I can think of is not understanding, and I've shared this before, not understanding how when you trim the heels out, because this foot wants to stand up. Let me find a better foot here. Okay, here we go. This was more of a correct foot. You cannot see back here because of the way I positioned it. You can't see whatchamacallit, the whatchamacallit. Yeah, okay, that's scientific. You cannot see the heel buttress corium. So let me annotate to show you what that would look like. Okay, so the heel buttress core, here's the coronary band right here that grows the hoof wall. Okay, but at the back, you got your heel buttress. And so this heel buttress, even on this horse here, actually goes like this. So this is the coronary band. Wait a minute. Right here. It actually sticks out like that. But when you remove the hoof capsule, the cartilage, everything will fall down. That's how flexible it is. And that is why this hoof capsule has to be a specific formation growing from the foot so it supports the whole back of this foot. Now, you look up here. Okay, this is where I removed everything but the coffin bone. And so look at the foot here. I've outlined it in pink. Okay, so 1/3 of the foot, the inner foot, is bone. 2/3 of the foot, well, you got the short pastern bone and the navicular bone that's right here, but the rest of it is cartilage and fat, just like your nose. Okay, and so it has to have a specific formation to be supported. All right, so they didn't know this, and people have not realized that the covering, all this, look here, this is all skin. So this skin here grows the hair. This skin grows the hoof capsule. Oh, right here, this little part right here. Okay, that is the periopal corium that grows the periopal, this white stuff here that covers the back of the foot and the very top of the coronary band groove. See, right here is your coronary band groove, where this coronary band sets right in there, and then the periopal grows from here and it covers to here. Here, right here, it's not as thick anymore, and as the hoof wall grows out from here down, it emits a fine, thin sheet of periopal that it is almost like a shellac or a protective covering that traps moisture in and also keeps too much moisture out. So because people didn't know this, then when they trim the heels, they don't realize that this whole capsule can be deformed and made smaller. In fact, it can be made smaller. All this cartilage can be pulled down. It can be made smaller to where your hoof capsule would only be this big. That whole foot there of this horse could be compressed and forced into a capsule that was made smaller because the person kept trimming the heels down. And as you trim the heels down, finally it gets up to here, and then it starts moving forward and reducing the capsule out of your foot. And so what I didn't know about this whole process was that when you trim the heels out, let me clear some of this out. When you trim the heels out, the foot insists, look, if your coronary band wants to be up here, this would be the foot. This is the real foot here, what I'm drawing. This is the back of that foot. See, now remember I told you it fell down. I lost track of what I was saying. Because what happens to me is, all right, this happens to me all the time. It's right. I can never finish anything. All right, I'll get to explaining something, but then I realize that in order to explain that, you might need to know this. And then I get on that, and then I go, well, then you might need to know this. By the time I get back around, sometimes I forget what I was even talking about. But anyway, okay, so I'm going to give you a job here to do. What I want to explain is how the foot, when you trim the heels out, because it wants to set up like this. You've got a whole horse connected to this foot. This deep digital flexor tendon is so strong, pulling the foot up this way. And plus then you've got this fat in here that is the digital cushion and the cartilage. That is all very strong too. And so everything in the horse, in the foot, wants the foot to be exactly like this. Wants the hairline to be up here, not down here. And just a minute here. And so when you trim the heels down to here and it pulls the back of this foot down, well, it's being forced down. The thing about it is there's a tremendous amount of force because it wants to be back up here. And so what happens is, because you have reduced the amount of wall, look, there's a big difference between how much wall is here and here. This piece of wall right in here, see how much is there? Okay, there's a big difference between that. And if you totally trim the heels out and you just got this little bit here, right there, because you have just this little bit and you've weakened the wall, okay, because this foot wants to stand up, you know what it does? It pulls this wall behind it and underneath, and it contracts the heels and curls them in. Now, sometimes it doesn't do that. Sometimes, let's see here, like this is your foot and the shape. Okay, now sometimes when they trim the heels out, these heels will be curled in like this. But other times, instead of curling in, as the capsule size is reduced, you got to remember that you're reducing the amount of capsule in this. See, now look how thick that capsule is over here. Not very thick, is it? So you can see, especially if there's any moisture, how this thing can deform, how these walls here can be pulled in and curled inward. And then the bar too, the bar is shoved up into the foot like that. And so sometimes, most of the time, this foot gets curled in like this. Okay, and other times it'll just follow the shape of the foot to where you'll have a real wide frog like so, and you'll have your heel is clear up here. Clear up here. The heels don't contract. The shape of the hoof capsule follows the shape of the foot. See the shape of this foot here? As the heel is being trimmed out and it's producing what looks like a heel, what we've called a false heel, this heel here that is here, it'll wind up here. And then it'll wind up here. And it'll get wider. Say, you see that, and look where the frog would be. Like that. And so on another thing that happens, instead of doing that, now I've cut this piece out, okay? So the heel would be there. Okay, well, instead it starts curling in like this, to where then you'd have contracted heels. It can, in fact, the heel buttress that was here and the sprog starts getting narrower and narrower like that as these curl in like this. See? So because I didn't know that, then you see, that is part of something that was not added into the equation to be able to form a fully correct understanding of how to restore a foot, how to keep a foot from contracting, things like that. Now, do you understand how if you are missing a fact? Now, let me show you that fact here real quick here. I've showed this before. Let's see, undo all, clear all drawings. Okay, so just a second here. Let me get rid of annotate. So I'm going to show you this picture. We'll get up in here, go to cartilage. Okay, I've been showing this a lot. Let's see, cartilage. Okay, almost. We'll look at some more pictures of it here too. Okay, here it is. Just a second. New share. Okay, so again, the history on this foot. One of our newer members in the Tact Hoof group, Facebook group, she misunderstood about trimming the heels, and she just wound up trimming the total heel out of this horse. And this is also an adopted wild horse, I do believe, if I remember right. He's got the same kind of foot as Chester, the wild horse that is our hoof model, our mascot, so to speak. Which here, hold on, keep a look at that while I drop this other picture here. While I'm looking for this other picture, because I want to show you Chester's foot compared to this foot. But what I want you to notice in both of these horses is how they both have short pastern bones too, which is really interesting. So hold on a second. So what you want to look at here is totally trim the heels out of this horse, freaked me out. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you know, the strain on the tendons and everything else, what is going to happen? And so I asked her to take pictures for several days to see what happened. And so this was the next day. It was either the next day or the day after. Now you notice, let me do an annotate here, just a minute. Get a decent color. What color? We'll use blue. Okay, you notice how, look at the flat, how it's just flat here. And here is the bulb underneath. Okay, notice how it's not flat any longer. Now here's another thing. Look at how straight the cartilage is. See, we know that the cartilage is straighter. It's not curved. And so by the time you get over here, what do you see? You see the cartilage is curved around like so. Now then this is a day later over here, and it's even totally different. Now the cartilage is even more curved around, and it's actually made heel. Look at that. So the horse made a heel, but that ain't the true heel. The true heel was trimmed out. What's happened is the side wall right here was pulled under like that, because this foot here, this foot wants to be up here. See, it doesn't want to be down here. The example I use is your nose being pushed over to the side of your face. You can push it over with your finger, but no matter how much you push it over there, it's going to want to return to the center of your face. And so people would come along and look at this foot and think it was a good foot. They would look at this foot and think it was a good foot. But in truth, the heels have been trimmed out. And because the foot itself, the body of the horse wants to be, the hairline wants to be up here, not pulled down here. And so this is interesting too, because when I realized this, like I only realized this aspect of this, like I have been seeing that the heels curl around in, which I called spooling. So look at this for a minute, and I'm going to grab a picture of that. This minute, I'm going to clear all the drawings. I just want you to study these feet for a little bit, realizing that this is in 3 or 4 days time. Now, all the different things, like it would be interesting. You ever see those deals where they show you two pictures that are the same or they seem the same, but you've got to pick out every little thing that's different? I don't know what they call those, but I used to play those when I was a kid all the time. So just kind of look at these feet and look at all the subtle, to even by the time you get over here, it's no longer subtle at all. And so look at all the differences that happened in 3 days time, just because she totally trimmed the heels out. It pulled this beautiful cartilage down to the ground, the bulbs down to the ground here. And so then this is the response of the foot. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, I could move. I get to talking about this stuff, and I'll be sitting here and I won't move for like an hour. That can't be good for you. Okay, so there are two things now I want to show you. I want to show you spooling, what I came to call spooling. And I also wanted to explain to you also, when I learned this here, it's been about 6 months ago, I guess, that then I understood why, when I was looking at my own horse's feet over well, I've been taking pictures of his feet since 2005 of every single trim, right? So I understood why, when I was doing barefoot trimming and I was trying to get that look, see that look, right? That's that barefoot trimmed horse look right there. I was trying to get that. Why? I never could. His foot would not stay that. I would take the heels down so I could get that 30-degree hairline and get that frog on the ground and all that kind of stuff. But then the next time I trimmed, his foot would look like this. And I thought he was just growing heel fast. No, he wasn't growing heel fast. What was happening was this wall here was being pulled around underneath his foot and lifting his foot back up, but making the capsule smaller at the same time, because all this cartilage can be compressed into a smaller capsule.
Hey, Linda,
Yeah.
you had mentioned Chester earlier. Could you put a picture of his foot next to that foot so that we can see what an actual wild foot looks like, as
Yeah.
opposed to this false wild foot trim?
Yeah, I will do that right now. Yeah, keep me on track, will you? If I
Thank
say
you.
something, please remind me of stuff I'm going to show you that then I get to going and I may forget. Just a minute here. Clear all drawings. Okay, so I'll do that first. We'll go find Chester so that you know the difference here. Yeah, we have to have that example of a correct foot. Let's see, pictures. I wish I could be as quick at finding pictures. I wish I could just zip them in there. Maybe I could get some AI to help me. It would
I
just
wish
know.
I could find them as slowly as you think you do.
Oh, okay. Let's see, Chester. Okay, let's see here. Just a second. Let me move this out of the way, because I might have taken a picture of his foot with that foot. Just a second. That's what I need to do. I need to put those 2 feet together. Okay. Just a second here. Okay, here we go. Here's two pictures of him. Just a second here.
Linda, is that picture of Chester's foot a front or a back foot?
I don't know. Can't remember. This one might be a back foot. I'll show you the front foot and the back foot. That is important, especially since I complain about the barefoot model being a back foot, right? I don't care. I'll take this barefoot model back foot for my front feet any day. All right, let's see. Let's see, new share. Here we go. Okay, so there's Chester's foot, two different, and okay, so this is when he hadn't been trimmed for a while. And so his capsule, actually, he wasn't trimmed for about 9 months. And so his capsule was kind of being pulled forward and stuff. And so I want you to see here the periopal skin, the reaction of the periopal skin, how it thickened up and how his foot was going to be up here anyway. This cartilage was going to be up here regardless. And so the foot is pulling up, and with it, the periopal skin is stretching. You see that? And this again was because, okay, what happened was this horse belonged to my neighbor. He adopted him. And then he was going to get rid of him because he had a breathing problem. And so he had such good feet that I wanted somebody in our group to buy him. Sharon Reynolds bought him. And then I hadn't been able to get over and trim him. I trimmed him two times, 3 times maybe, because she was moving to Missouri from California. And so the horse still had to stay over here at my neighbor's for a year. So I trimmed him maybe 2 or 3 times. And then I couldn't get over there to trim him for like 4 or 5 months. And then on the very day I was going to trim him, they decided to take him up to her place. And then I couldn't get up there for another few months. And so, and she was unsure at the time about kind of trimming him. And so then I went up there and spent some time with her. And this is what the trim turned into. But see, this does fit in with what I'm trying to tell you here, how this foot wants to be up here no matter what, because that's the way the foot is built. This cartilage, you see how straight the cartilage is here? That's because that's the shape of the cartilage. Now, I'll go back and show you. Now here, this is a week after, wait a minute, no. This was taken on 3/27, so 4, 5, a month later. This is the foot a month later, how the capsule wall grew back in and the foot settled into the capsule. That's why the toe looks a little long, because this is like a month later. She sent me a picture. Well, I'm going to show you.
Is that a front foot or a back foot?
Looking here. I think it's a front foot. You know, this is a front foot. And this is right after the trim. This is, I'm looking. I'd have to go back through my pictures to make sure. Front foot or back foot, they were all basically the same. Okay, so look at this foot here. And I think that's the same foot. Okay, now I want you to see how wide the periopal is here. See how it's narrower here and then it gets wider here? That's because, okay, just like if you trim the heels out and it pulls the cartilage down. We're going to look here. Okay, this is what his foot was when I got there, because he had not been trimmed for 8 to 9 months. So what does that do? the leverage, you see how everything grows forward and the leverage is pulling the foot down like so. So that is similar to if you were going to trim the heels out here and force the foot down. The foot wants to be up. And so even though the foot, well, the capsule is technically, because of the mechanics, the long toe, the long heel, the foot, the capsule is technically being pulled off forward. So it's the same thing as if you trim the heels out and force this down. It's forcing and pulling the foot down this way. So the foot doesn't want to be down that way. So it's pulling up. So as it's pulling up, it's stretching this periopal skin here, and the periopal skin is growing as well. Okay, so this was the after trim. And another thing that happens is, you see this here, as the capsule is being pulled off the foot, the periopal starts stitching itself together to try and prevent that. See how this periopal stitches together right here? That's all to try and keep the capsule on the foot. This is how the periopal gradually takes over the frog as well. And you think it's frog, but it's really periopal. But you can't go trimming all that off just because you have to grow in heel and do a bunch of things there first. Okay, so now here, there's where he was trimmed, and here is a month later, and you can see how the hoof wall grew here and filled in. The wall stayed in the capsule instead of growing down and pushing out the bottom. The wall stayed in the capsule and added capsule into the foot up here. Just a minute, I'll show you something. Let me get black. Okay, so the hoof capsule wall and everything grows from here, from the coronary band, right? Okay, so the growth that was coming in, instead of like up here, the growth would have come and then down in like this, and then out the bottom, like so, where it will be trimmed off. Okay, in this is why we weight the heels, why we make sure that there's enough capsule here to weight the heel so that the wall will be pushed up instead of pulling down and out of the capsule. So what happened here was, as it grew, because this is being pulled up, as it grew right here, it added this capsule in up at the top. See there? See where it added? How you have more capsule here now than you did right here. Another thing you want to notice is, look here, just a minute, let me do white. Look at the periopal band. Okay, now look at how it's the same width. You know, to get right here, but that's because it's supposed to be that way to cover up the corium of the heel buttress, that nipple that sticks out like so. So here you see where it was wider. It started narrower up here, but then it got wider. See? Way wider. And you get bigger bulb skin here too. But now notice how all that reduced. You have more capsule wall in this area here than you did over here. Also, the horn tubules. See, they were being pulled forward before, and now they've straightened up here. So that is Chester's foot. And so look at the cartilage here. And even over here, it's still straight. Okay, so when you're trimming the heels out of these horses, what's it do? It pulls it down like that. And compresses it into that capsule to many different degrees. And so because we haven't recognized that, we didn't know the true foot of the horse. You know, the foot of the horse is, it doesn't start here, doesn't start there and go down. It's all this up here as well. Okay, let me undo. Okay, so let's go back now and look at, what I'll do is I'll take pictures of those 2 feet so you can compare them together. Just a second here. Remind me, and next week we will just go through all the pictures of this trim so you can see the front and the back feet. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Because they're not that much different, and they're not that much different from each other.
Linda, I'm starting to think that the front and the back feet aren't supposed to be all that much different.
I don't think so either. Except for the shape of the toe, you know. Otherwise, no, not really. In fact, they say, you know, I always figure if they say it, there's a chance it's wrong. I'm sorry.
Oh.
You know, just beware. Always
Okay, so
doubt.
you were putting Chester's foot next to the trimmed out foot?
Yeah.
And once you do that, I want you to save it because that needs to go into your manual that we were talking about earlier.
Okay. Let's see here.
Not that I'm telling you what to do.
No,
I
no,
think
I
it was
need
a
all the help
really
I
good
can
idea. Okay.
I need all the help I can get. Believe you me. I mean, there's a lot of details here, you know.
Absolutely.
And so trying to explain and help people remember or see and then remember where I started and where I'm going, sometimes it gets a little,
I can't remember what I had for
oh, criminally. Are you still there? Hello?
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I just muted myself because sometimes I think I talk too much.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to try and make these a size. This thing. What is going on? Oh, okay. I see. Hold on. All right. So now I'll take a picture of it all. Okay, now I'll try and show it to you. Let's see. Screen share. I got all these little boxes from or little windows and pop-ups from Zoom. I gotta try and navigate through here. New share. Okay, here we go. There we go. Interesting, huh? See, that's something to really study. There's the true foot of the horse
Wow.
on the left. And here's the heels. See how isn't it interesting how they got the
Amazing.
same bone makeup? You know, the same short pasterns. It's a wild horse. You know, be interesting to know where this other horse came from too.
That must be a breed thing, right?
Well, if you look at most them horses, most them wild horses do have shorter pasterns. Yeah, I think so. Thoroughbreds have pretty long pasterns, you know.
Yeah, wild horses probably have thicker bones.
Yeah. You know, but the thing that is the same about all of them, they all have the same foot. Thoroughbreds have just as much cartilage in their feet as these wild horses. The cartilage, the shape of the cartilage is the same. You know, all horses have the same basic anatomy. And so the only reason you don't see that is because when the heels are trimmed out, it reduces the size of the hoof capsule. Some horses, the hairline will stay down like this. If it's a really dry climate, especially, the hairline will stay down because the periopal, you've seen how that periopal started tying itself together? Because it's made like that to hold on to the capsule so the horse can survive. If the horse is in a drought and wearing its feet out to try and get food, that periopal will go to work as the heels are being worn out. It'll get thicker and thicker, and first of all, the anatomy gets pulled under. The bulbs get pulled down and under, so that periopal is under the foot growing forward. It'll grow over the whole frog. It'll grow into the frog stay. It's a support system for the horse. So that's why, you can't just go trimming periopal off hilly-nilly. You really have to evaluate where the foot is, because you've seen how in this horse's foot, how he added capsule wall into the capsule in a month. All right. So you imagine a horse that has this much capsule reduced. If the foot was just released, there's nothing for it to be in. Once it's like this, there's nothing there. You have to grow that back in and expand that foot. And so we need to learn a lot more about periopal removal. Because whereas I had very good luck with that, I think I did it one too many times on my horse, and it did cause me some issues. And also Mamie Mann, I think it caused her some issues. I think that because maybe she didn't have enough heel grown in at the time, that it also, by removing the periopal that was in place of the frog's stay, then, caused her heels on her horse to contract, and pull in. This is what happened to my pony as well. Not enough height. See, this is what I know now. Not enough height. You have to get some height in your foot. Here, just a minute. Let me save this and use it so I can annotate. See,
the height, Linda, what if it's a false heel? Is it still considered height?
It's still considered height, yeah.
Okay.
But you still have to be growing some in. This is why this support in the back of the foot. And see, whether it's wedge pads, I don't care what it is. All right. All of that stuff helps by getting that hairline up, so that this foot right here, there's a heck of a pull for that foot to want to be up this way. And so as it's pulling up, what happens to this? It curls it in. So what I've found, and I found this on my pony now twice, see, I barefoot trimmed my pony to the specifications of the 1/3, 2/3 barefoot model, did all the things, that they say to do. And it bound her feet and then caused mechanical failure, mechanical laminitis. And so her foot is totally bound. Let me show you a bound foot, just a minute, that was restored. Just a second here. So we can look more at what we're talking about here. Just a second. Okay, this is another foot I've shown a lot. Okay, so how I said, because 2/3 of this foot is soft cartilage and fat, right? So as the heels, now this looks a little strange here, because this lady bought this horse. It was being barefoot trimmed. I'm pretty sure it was a Strasser trimmer. And Then she started trimming the horse herself, and she didn't know the principles of barefoot trimming. And so she allowed the heel to grow here. See that? That looks like heel. Okay, but the foot was already bound up to half the size it should be. It would have looked like, I did a simulation of what the foot would have looked like when she got the horse. Just a second here, moving stuff. Let's see. Oh, wait. Okay, this shows here how much sidewall has been trimmed out of this horse's foot here. So a barefoot trimmer come in and would just take that off, thinking they were doing, see, this horse never, he never wanted his cartilages to be down like this. He was a warm blood. Let's see here. If I can find where I really did a simulation. These are all like, I saved all the markups I did, looking at the back of the foot, trying to figure out, this was, let's see, when did I do these? Well, this is 2017. So well, see, and it was all the feet. Look at that. Okay. Now, again, the barefoot trimmer come in here. This looks like heel, doesn't it? You would think this was heel. And so trim it off up to here. And
Mandy,
so,
did you say that's a warm blood's foot?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's a great big black horse. Now here, some of the foot had been restored to the horse. This horse was pretty amazing, the way he grew in sidewall and enlarged his foot. Say, of course, and he developed, and that earlier I was talking about how these cracks develop. Okay, here I simulated what they'd been trying to trim this horse's foot into. See the hairline? Okay, this is what they had been doing to the foot. Now I simulated this. If a barefoot trimmer was to come in and find this foot, what are they going to do? They're going to think this is heel, right? First of all, they're not going to take a picture. They're not going to take a picture to really see what this foot looks like. They're going to be looking at the sole. They're going to see that this looks like heel right here. Just a minute here. Let me annotate. Get a different color. Okay, they're gonna see this. Here's the periopal flap. Okay, they're gonna see this wall here, and they're gonna think that's heel. It's not heel. It's sidewall. It's almost quarter wall. Actually, it's in the quarter. The quarter starts here. This is wall from the quarter right here. This is the quarter. Look at his cartilage. Okay, you can see his periopal band right here going like this. Okay, so they would think that this piece here is heel. And so they're going to come in here and they're going to do this number. See there? And so I simulated that because this gal buys the horse. She doesn't know how to barefoot trim, doesn't know that's what you're supposed to do. Like this is why you're not supposed to do it. What I'm showing you here, this is an extreme of what it does to the feet. Now, in this case, this horse had a tight dorsal wall and the wall held. All right. And so then as well, that coffin bone is standing on its tiptoe there. You can bet this foot is bent up like this. See? Got a scribble picture going here. So they come in, think this is heel. And so this is what they try and get it to look like. Now, doesn't it look like this foot here? Looks the same, right? That's because this is the image that is put in. So, was it you, Marcia, or Antoinette was asking me, is that a front or back foot? Who was asking that?
I asked that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a back foot here. And the front feet on this horse didn't they still didn't look great, but they didn't look like this. But this now is the image that has been put into the minds of people of what a horse's foot should look like. And so you're going to come in here, you're going to see this and you go, oh, well, this horse has too much heel. So you're going to come in and cut it off, but it's not heel. Well, every time this horse's heels were trimmed down, his cartilage did not want to be down there because that's not where it belongs. Just like your nose doesn't belong shoved over onto the side of your face. Well, some people's do. Okay, that's my own personal joke. So that foot keeps wanting to expand up here, and it would raise back up. Well, it would curl back in, and when it did, it would uncover more sidewall here. Say this here, if this raised back up and curled in, it would look like this horse had grown heel here. When in reality, it's just the cartilage pushing up and raising up. So, that's not what you want your horse's feet to look like. That's off a dead wild horse that wore its heels out. No telling how old she was. And she died in a BLM roundup. She didn't make it through. So she probably was rather old. The feet looked extremely worn and old. All right. So anyway, let me clear that.
Linda, sorry, before you move on, can I just ask you the top left picture, when you worked with that hoof, how was the horse in terms of movement? Was he sound or lame, or what was the situation?
He wasn't moving all that great. I don't remember all the details, because like I say, that was in 2017, and she wrote me here a year ago, the horse had passed on, but he'd been sound, and she'd been riding and using him and things like that. I will try if I can and remember. I think he was having problems, and well, he should have been. So let's look at some of the pictures of when he was getting straightened out here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only asking because I'm constantly surprised how many horses I see where you can see the foot is so bound and so much smaller than it should be. And these horses, you can, if you look close, I mean, if your eye is sort of trained in that way, you can see that there's so much information and they're very uncomfortable in their feet.
Yeah, I'm sure he was, and that's why she got a hold of me.
They say, I know he's sound, but you can see that. I mean, yes, they are sound, but they're not
sound.
They're not sound. And
yeah,
when they tick all the boxes, but their bony column alignment is correct, and this is correct, but you can see that the horse is not comfortable in their feet, and there's information. It's just it's very interesting. I'm beginning to get my eye in where I'm starting to see this sort of fake heel situation of sidewall. And I'm going, people are like, the foot looks good, it ticks all the boxes, but it doesn't. When you start looking at how the horse is moving and how the cartilage is pulled and tucked in and how uncomfortable the horse actually is, it's very painful to watch.
Yeah, when you know the truth, like here, a lot of the foot had been restored. I mean, that's quite a difference from that, just even this. And, at the time I was helping her, I did not know about this aspect of the cartilage. So anyway, it was all a learning experience there for me too. At one point, she started unintentionally trimming the heels out again without realizing it, because also at that time, we did not know how the bulb skin would stretch, and you could have 2 inches from, well, look here. If I measure from here to here, how long do you think that's going to be? From here at the hairline to here. You could have 2 inches there easy. You see that? But it's still not the true heel. And so that's one of the mistakes we made in the beginning, was understanding how this periopal skin stretches, how this foot gets bound in there, how it could look like you have 2 inches here, but your heels are still totally trimmed out. And so during this process, she reverted thinking she had a heel, when in reality, most of it was fat bulbs and periopal, which is another one of those things that's really hard to explain. Be like, you still only you have no heel here, but your cartilage stretches up like this, and with it the periopal grows and stretches, so that most of this is periopal. It's
So
not
Linda,
true heel buttons.
our safest measurement then, when we're measuring for like a 2-inch heel as a guideline, we actually should remeasure just the heel itself from the collateral groove for accuracy, right?
Yeah, and you have to take all these into factors. What's going on with your, what's the shape of the hairline? What are the horn tubules doing? Like here, this one would be so deceiving, right? Because, okay, this curls down somewhat, but look how straight growth ring. Look, you got a straight growth ring, and you got a straight parallel horn tubule. So this you can't look at this up here. You're looking at the cartilage.
So how did you go about trimming that foot without taking that false heel down, since it's underrun so far? If you measured, like you said, it looks way longer than 2 inches even. How would you bring it back? Like, not back, but how would you bring it? How would you correct that? How would you start addressing that without having to touch those heels at all?
Yeah, good question. I don't remember what we did in that case, other than she just started letting the heel grow instead of trimming it down. Okay, so like I said, okay, so this is barefoot trimming. You quit doing this. She hadn't had the horse that long, and she just started trimming it. And so she didn't know about this. So we left that. All right. You leave that and you start. I was trimming frogs. They don't trim frogs. And so if you don't trim the frog and you don't trim any periopal, any of that, then that hardens and it can bind that foot right there. But if you start cleaning up the frogs and allowing, not cutting this down all the time, then obviously what happened to this horse, because again, at the time, now I have to look back and try and understand what happened, because at the time there were lots and lots of things I still didn't know about, how these feet get bound. Like everything we've been talking about today, I didn't know none of that stuff. But
Linda,
now I can, yeah. Oh, hi.
Hi, hello, everybody. In 2017, we were struggling to put limits and boundaries to the hoof, and we were struggling with the white line disease. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember some of that.
We were trying to find out how to address the bars, the true foot of the horse, and how to distinguish each part and find the boundaries of all of this.
Yeah.
We were imagining talking about the heels, but
Mhm.
we didn't have the knowledge to do it
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah, and we didn't know, like we didn't know about the cartilage, you know, how it expanded.
And we didn't know about the bulbs, how they
Yeah,
work.
yeah,
And we didn't know where the frog ends.
yeah, yeah, none of this stuff we didn't know. All this is stuff that has come to light in the feet of the horse as we just endeavored to grow some heel, you know,
Yes.
and stuff. So, but now, like we're revisiting this. I can look, and you're asking me a question. I'm trying to think. Well, you know, at the time, what was I noticed? Like at the time, I don't even know if I noticed that this was curved down like that. I just don't know if I even noticed that at the time. Like now, I would look at it and go, "Oh yeah, that foot is still real bounded. It needs some."
No, we didn't know at that time.
Yeah,
We were trying to pull the hoof back from the toe,
yeah,
if
yeah.
you remember.
Yep, that too, for sure. So, see, a lot of this is stuff that's been learned over these past, well, what, however many years, 6, 7 years, since 2016, when I was doing that study on the anatomy and noticed that we were trimming this area out. So, so she made some wrong turns, but then she did some right things too. Like here, this is where I think she was trimming the heels out again. And then we learned too, this part can grow and kind of take over, as you see here. And so here you see it was being more corrected. There's a different foot. That's what it was. And this is how much capsule she's added in there. Look at the cartilage there. Look at it there. See? These horses want heels. The reason that some people are so successful at the so-called barefoot model is because they live in a very dry climate. And if you live in a dry climate, like where that horse came from, then the periopal and the frog can get so dead and hard that it can bind the foot there regardless. But most of these horses, especially if you're in a more arid climate, they don't, the periopal will release. That's why I was telling you about, I went down to Arizona to visit my mom, and she's really into race horses. And we went to this horse rescue in Tucson, out of Tucson. And this lady probably had 30, maybe 30 thoroughbreds that she'd rescued off the track. And she had like maybe 10 of them that lived in this big arena. I mean, they had like shade, you know, whatever you call that they put in there. It's like a lean-to, shade, and all that. And so I was looking at one of her horses. And I said, well, to restore these feet, they'd have to have moisture. Because see, first she was telling me, well, all these horses are sound. They don't have any problems with their feet, right? Then later we're in another area looking at this one horse that had horrendous feet. He was the highest selling thoroughbred ever in the United States, ever. And this horse was crippled as all get out. And so I was telling her about how this is all mechanical. It's all caused by man. And I mean, his tendons were like rubber. So he's never going to be sound, but he still could have had better feet. And so I was telling her about how in order to restore these feet, you have to have moisture so they can expand. And then she says, oh, but whenever it rains here, most of the horses over there in that arena that we were just at, they all go lame. See, why is that? Because the periopal gets wet and the foot expands out of the capsule. And when it does, that's when you're going to see abscesses too. Because like here, Okay, if that, and you can see there was moisture wherever she was. She kept this horse in a stable, if I remember at the time too. I don't know, it might have had boots on it, I don't know. But so when the periopal gets wet, well, the foot expands. Okay, well, if the capsule is still tiny and the foot expands, then you're going to get what looks like an abscess or a wound, because that's the foot becoming disconnected from the tiny capsule. Another thing that happens is if your foot is supposed to be big like this and it's been mooshed up into a tiny capsule, there's pieces of capsule wall and sole and frog laying in and on stuff it shouldn't be laying on. That's going to create abscesses too. Has anybody else but me noticed that there's an abscess epidemic in barefoot horses? Do you ever see all the posts on people that have
Yeah.
abscesses?
Yeah,
And-
I have that in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
that on these other
everybody-
sites.
Yeah. So I hear it from a lot of girls. They told me, oh, the vet told me I have an abscess on that hoof, and I said, okay, no.
Yeah, it's just like the normal thing,
Yeah, that's a normal thing. Yeah.
you know? Well, that's all these reasons here that we're looking at. Okay, so then I made this meme. I reversed it though. Went, no, got to be the other way. This is how it happens. Same foot. And this foot is not even completely corrected yet. But I'm telling you, this horse, he just wanted capsule in his foot. And however his, cartilage and however it all wound up happening, because we didn't know what we were doing. Not really. I was trying to grow it in I'm showing her here. Now, this is what's interesting. Look at what the dorsal wall did. The difference here and here. So you can imagine how bent this foot is. All right. And look at how the whole thing just expanded. Okay. And so here I'm showing her where the true apex should be, and where eventually the wall might come back to. But see, now I'm looking at this and I understand a lot more of what happened here. And I don't know if I would see at the time. Here's another thing. At the time, I did not know that just like when you trim the heels down too low and it pulls and binds this foot this way, that if you, I might have been still rockering toes at that time. I can't remember. I think Angelique said we were chasing the toes at that time, maybe. So now I can look at this and understand what happened. Now, this dorsal wall, okay, as all this anatomy was pushed up in here, okay, that rotated and pushed forward the coffin joint forward, which pushed the toe of the inner foot down. It rotated it. Let me do an annotate. See, revisiting. This is why I tell you, always revisit stuff. Let's see. Let's see here. Okay, so that's like that. So when all this anatomy gets pushed up and under, it rotates this foot down like that. Okay, the inner foot. So she had a dorsal wall that was growing like that. Let's back up here. I don't think I can. Maybe I can. Nope, I can't move that. So then when she started allowing heel and this started expanding, you know what happened? All that anatomy quit pushing this forward as much. And so then the foot was able to relax out this way. See? Of course, at the time I'm looking at, I did not see this stuff at the time. At the time, that's something I didn't know, was that all this anatomy was being pushed up here into this coffin joint and making the toe rotate down. Now, in her case, the dorsal wall stayed steep. In a lot of cases, the internal foot rotates down like this, okay, and is shoving the toe, the inner toe is pushing down on the sole. And then the wall will go like this. Okay, you know what you get there? You get, let me find it here. That's when
like it happened.
you get that laminar wedge.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we had a partial rotation
Yeah. Yeah, it's a form of rotation.
at that time.
Yeah, and then if the back of the foot rotates and comes up out of the capsule, then you're in real trouble. See, and you see that happening to ponies a lot. And you'll see this real stretched periopal and stuff like that. Let's see here. Well, periopal gone crazy is what you see on them. Trying to hold the foot in the capsule, but it's coming up out of the capsule. So the foot, if we looked over here, just a minute here, this foot here would have been bent, literally bent. I bet it had really deep collateral grooves. You see why that is no way to be judging the thickness of the sole? Because this foot could be bent clear up in here. Where else did it go? You know, it's supposed to look like, let's look here, just a second here.
It depends, because if the toe gets stretched very much, you don't get high, deep collateral grooves.
No,
You
yeah,
have all your sole flat, and you have
flat,
no
yeah,
collateral grooves.
yeah, good point. See, yeah, if the toe stretches out, well, then the foot goes flat again. And so the collateral grooves aren't going to be deep. But if the toe stays basically connected to the dorsal wall and the whole foot is bent, like in the picture that we're showing, then you're going to have deep collateral grooves because the foot is bent. I mean, it's just, you know, it's just common sense. Like
And
here.
I remember that I was hoping and I was praying for collateral grooves
Oh, yeah.
because I had none.
Yeah. Because, well, because,
And-
and let's see, where am I
and-
at?
And I remember, Linda and girls, that at that time, we didn't know about the periopal as we do now. And we thought it was only a periopal band. That's all we knew.
Yeah. I didn't know how it goes to work to try and save the foot, how it gets thicker, things like that, how it takes over the frog to save the foot, to hold the foot on to hold the capsule on the foot, I guess you would say. So
And thank God there is Linda here who discovered all these things. I have to say that.
well,
Thank you, Linda, again.
well, thank you, dear, and thank you for being here and confirming all these things and helping. See, this is now a group effort because see, you're going to confirm or deny all these things. You know, in science, the biggest thing you can do is when you prove it wrong, because then you're one step closer to proving the truth. See? And so then it does come down to all these little details that you learn about this stuff. You're throwing some stuff up, you're adding some stuff. Some stuff might apply one way. I mean, there's just a multitude of little facts and details that you learn that then you can draw your conclusions, but you always also have to stay open that it could be like these feet have multiple versions of different distortions to where you think it's one thing, but in reality, it's another thing. See, so you always have to stay open to change what you're seeing in case you learn something extra to add into all the facts that you're adding up to try to get an understanding of what's going on. It's like foot calculus. It really is. It's like, okay, we're learning foot algebra here. Let's see here. Okay, so
Glad you switched back to algebra from calculus, because I get algebra, I don't get calculus.
well, I never got any of it. So I never got
I
any
do
of it.
algebra ahead of calculus too, any day.
Yeah. I remember I had an algebra teacher, and I was such a class disruptor that he finally made an agreement with me. He said, look, he says, you don't have to do any work and I'll give you an F. He said, and I won't bother you, but just don't bother anybody else in class, okay? So I went, okay. And so then I'm sitting in class doing nothing because that was our agreement, right? Well, it was a different teacher that day, and it was a coach. Well, they were both coaches, right? But it was a coach. And so he said, how come you're not doing your work? And I said, because I don't have to. Well, that ain't over good. So he took me out in the hall and almost beat me up, because you could do that to kids in those days, you know. Well, then the other teacher comes back and he goes, oh, no, I told her she didn't have to do anything. You know what? I'd have probably enjoyed algebra if they could have taught it to where I even had some inkling of understanding of what we were doing and why, you know, but the way they taught it, I just could not grasp it. So anyway, I wasn't a very good student, but I'd probably enjoy learning it now, to tell you the truth, because I like to figure things out. And that's what you're doing when you're doing that. So, okay. Well, now you know what a bad child I was. Let's see here. Okay, so where should we go from here? Because really what we're discussing here is just giving you more understanding of the foot, how foot distortion happens. I was going to show you spooling, okay? How spooling enters into this. That's what it was called at first. So I'm going to show you some pictures on that, because remember I told you when that foot tries to stand up again after you've forced it to be down, then the sidewall is pulled around the sides and under the foot to make heel, so that foot can be elevated, because that's where it's supposed to be. So I didn't know that up until like 6 months ago, and I only know it, though it should have been obvious, okay, because I've been seeing these things, but not in the way that those pictures you see here. If all these people were not contributing pictures, and I'm not just talking about people in the group, I'm talking about all over the web, without these photos, and of course, yeah, trimming, things like that, watching how the horses move, history, the whole ball of wax, but without photo evidence, we would not know this stuff is happening. See? So because that gal joined the group and made that mistake, that photo evidence in several days was like, wow, things just went off and clicked. And then all the pieces started putting together. See, here's what you got to have too. You got to have a shelf that you put stuff on that you don't quite understand. And then what'll happen is a few pieces will be added to the puzzle. You'll be able to take that off the stand. Let's see, spooling. I got everything under alphabetical, MNOPQRS. You can take it off the shelf and maybe understand it. So MNOP. Here we go. Let's see. New share. Oops, I missed it. Just a second. New share. Okay. Okay, so this is why I call it spooling, because it looks like there's just two spools here. Now see, I can even look back at this picture. And there was something I didn't understand here as well. I knew I was seeing the bulbs being spooled in here. Okay, but even at this time, I was not as much seeing that it was curling the wall around in here as well, which that only makes sense. You know, you've trimmed the heel buttress totally out, so there's nothing there, so it's easily pulled in like so. Just a minute here. So okay, here you go. This is a dissection, not mine. And you can see how these heels are pulled in. See how they're, look at the heel buttress here. It's right up next to the frog. Look at the bulbs, how they're curled in like this, curled in like that. Look at on this horse here. Same thing. The bulbs, see what's, you see this crack here? Yeah. You see that? Okay, this is periopal. Okay, these bulbs are pulled in and hidden in there. Okay, so I just simulated this kind of, tried to, but this is cartilage. So it can be turned in like this. This is a normal healthy foot right here. Okay, so this, since this is all cartilage, this can be curled in like this. The foot can be bent. This area here, bent upward. This pulled down, toe pulled down, this bent upward. Okay, this is my horse's foot. When I was doing the experiment of removing this periopal, again, this has to be done. Now I kept him booted and moisturized the whole time I was doing it. I don't suggest just absolutely removing all that right away. I think you need to evaluate the foot. You do not want the heels to contract, because that frog stay in here keeps those heels from contracting. Now my heels are already contracted, but I did not realize it even in this picture as much, because see here, when I made this picture, I was not looking at the heel here. See how it curls around? I was only looking at how the bulbs were sucked in like this and the frog. This is what I was trying to release. At the time, I was not seeing this part. You know, this came, now when did I do this example? Okay, well, this isn't that long ago. I guess of course I modified it, so it could have done it earlier than January of 22. Maybe not, I don't know. But anyway, I wasn't seeing how literally the heel buttresses are curled under the foot, and that has become the false heel. Now I know that that they have false heels, but I also didn't realize again how the foot pulls this wall under it to support it. See, now if the wall, think of this. Oh, just a second. Just a second. Let me annotate and draw something for you here. Okay. So if your hoof wall supposed to be like this. Okay. And this would be your heel buttress supporting your foot in here. I might as well draw a foot. Okay. So we're going to draw a foot in here. Okay, so there's your foot, has correct support back here. Okay, now remember, only half is bone, or well, a third bone, the rest of it cartilage and fat, right? And of course, you got this part up here too. Just so you know, this is part of your foot too. Can never forget that. Now I forgot what I was going to say. I got too busy drawing a picture. Okay, so
You were telling about how the heels curl into.
that's right. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting old. All right. So then you take the heel out up to here. Now you wonder why you can do that. You think you run into blood, but it's done gradually. And because this is cartilage, it gets crushed up in like that. So you can perpetually take heel out forever, because the more you trim the heels, the more crushed the cartilage gets here. So I trim it out to there. Well, then this is the shape of my foot. Already made my dorsal wall. Okay, so there's less wall right here. So when that foot tries to stand up, it can take this wall right here and just curl it right on in behind it there. See there? Just curls it right in here like that. Oh, just a second. So now, then once I realize this is going on, now I'm trying to figure out a way to get this curve out of here, because I'm already, you got this curved in here. And now this is curved, that which only makes sense now. I don't know why, you know, I got a one dimension mind. And so now I'm trying to get all of this to uncurve with this. See, so how do you do that? Now, if I left a bunch of bar in here, it's going nowhere. See, this is not going to decontract. It's not going to lengthen up. See, now if this decontracted and lengthened up, my whole foot behind is going to be longer. You know, he's going to have more support. The true heel, let me undo this here. This heel right here should probably be in about this position right here. See, if all this unwrapped and this came back uncurled, it would be right about here. See, then I could allow the true, and that would put the bar placement correctly, everything. Then I could grow everything and allow everything to thicken up, like allow my sole to get thick. You know, you can have a thick sole in this heel, but if your heels are like this, what's that going to do? It's going to bind that heel right where it's at. So the conclusion I've come to, and what I'm working on, is trying to remove enough to where things can move, but I don't totally destabilize the foot. Do you understand? That's what I've been working on as far as his feet, because his heels still need to come out this way. Both ways. So, and of course this too. Of course, this is an older picture. He's come out a lot since here. Let's see. Okay, let me clear this up. All right, so all these things fit together. You see that? All these little...
Linda,
Yeah.
Maybe this is the reason why when we start to open the heels, the bars get distacked from the heels and we have the crack in between
Yeah.
the
Oh,
bar and the
yeah.
heel.
Yeah, the crack that comes right here, you see this crack show up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember that I personally saw in Benenitra's hooves the changes, how to release these heels and come outwards when we shortened the bars.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then they didn't hold on to the heel as much. And so the heel was able to expand. Yeah, because see, like what you were talking about beginning of too, we were looking for boundaries. And we would wind up trimming to the distortion. Because like if your heel gets trimmed out and it's more forward here and even wider, then this bar will grow out to it like this. And then the frog will fill that area up like that. And then you just wind up, you keep trimming this bar here and you're just trimming the distortion. You're not changing anything to release anything. And then this area would fill up with sole. Well, then your foot's just stuck there. And so that's why what we try and do is find out where are the boundaries and how can I move that boundary some in order to allow that foot to be able to free up and move more to where it's supposed to be. Because we always got to remember, this is just a shell and it binds and holds and supports this foot. And so if it gets trimmed wrong and it gets deformed, then it's going to grow that way. It's going to pull the foot into that distortion. And then that's all it can do is just grow that capsule. So but the foot wants to, and you have to remember this, these feet want to return to where they're supposed to be. So they're always in there trying to help you because they want to expand. Just like I always say, push your nose over to the side of your face. Where does it want to go? It wants to go back. You know, you take any body part and move it too far out of place. What's it want to do? It wants to go back to where it's supposed to be. And so when you see, let's see, when you see, let me do this deal here. So when you see this happening, that's what's happening. This cartilage wants to be up here. And the foot wants to be expanded out to here. It doesn't want to look like, let's see if like that. That's not the true foot at all. And even though this foot expanded, it wasn't done yet. You know, most people look at that and think it was okay. All right. So it wants to do this. This is where it's supposed to be. This foot should be in the same place. Look at the hairline. See, here's the hairline. Okay, here's the hairline. Okay, an inch is a lot in anatomy, let alone 2 inches and stuff. So this foot, it naturally wants to be up here. So it's pulling up, it's pulling up. Well, since you've reduced this little bit of wall right here, okay, as it pulls up, well, it just wraps it around behind it like that, and it becomes a false heel. And what I find interesting too, something to wonder about and try and figure out, how did this happen? Look at how it pulled the toe quarter wall up. How did that happen? See how it is here? Look at it here. See all these different things? Look at the angle of the pastern here. Look at the angle of the pastern here. See? you know, shape of the cartilage here, changed here, even more change, clear up into here. See, all these changes in the space of 3 days. Why is that? Because you got a big, powerful horse. This leg, has anybody seen that YouTube video where they do that dissection on a whole leg and they have, somehow they've stood it up and they have tension on the deep digital flexor tendon and then they cut it and man, it snaps. I mean, there is so much tension on this deep digital flexor tendon that's hooked right in here where the navicular bone is, pulling up. Okay, pulling up. So it's pulling this whole foot up like this. Everything in it, the fat, the cartilage, digital cushion, all of it is pulling this foot up. So you take, because you have been taught that you got to have a 30-degree hairline and that a foot is supposed to look like this. Well, those feet, it's just, that's just not the way it's supposed to be. And the horse knows the whole body is not built that way. And so, you know, well, what's going to happen then? This is only 3 or 4 days later that this happens. So let's say even 3 weeks growth after this. All right, it's going to grow some heel here. All right, and of course the toe's going to shoot forward more because now you've put everything at a different angle. See, here's the thing too. Look, see, understanding hoof distortion. Man, we could just go on and on forever. People are probably thinking, yeah, I guess. Let's see, annotate. Let me show you something here. Oh man, I just drew all over that. Ah, rats. That was my picture I was going to save. See, this is snag it so I can draw. That wasn't annotate. So now I've got all that on my picture. I'll have to make another one. Just a minute here. So draw. Okay, so you look at the angle of the horn tubules here. Okay, and so if I take the heel down to here, you know, or even just like so, what happens to the angle of this horn tubule? Well, it's then like this. See, at least that much. So that means all of them are going to be at a different angle, pushing forward like so. So that's going to make your toe shoot forward. All these at a forward, more forward angle like this. And of course, if this, you got to remember too, if this part bends down and around, then your heel buttress that should have been growing like this is now aimed like that. But, and so technically this is a recipe for run forward heels, period. So if you allow this to grow, okay, then you're going to come in here again, and you're just when this horse is pulling his cartilages up, trying to, you're going to come in here again, oh, and take that heel down again. Well, what'd that do? Okay, your horn tubules were already like this now. Now they're going to be in even more of an angle. You see how it perpetuates a run forward foot? All these horn tubules start growing this way. What are they going to do? Going to start pushing the toe forward. At the same time, the back of the foot's getting shorter. Back here, hoof capsule's getting smaller from this direction here. Back here, getting shorter, shorter, shorter with each trim. Binding this cartilage in more and more. Toes shooting forward. Next thing you know, your toe is looking long. Okay, so you start bringing the toe back. What happens? Well, that's over here. Just a minute. Let me clear this, annotate here. And go over here to this. What happens? Well, that's what happens here. See, then, because this is what I was going to tell you. you start shortening up the toe, it starts bending the front of the toe back. You can push the coffin bone back this direction so that then you're bending the foot from behind, you're bending the foot from forward because you think the toe's too long, because in truth, let's see, where's my annotate? In truth, see this, even on this horse, cartilage should have been clear back here. He had this much restoration minimum to go to add in hoof wall, lift up the cartilage and stuff. So when you're reducing this area and this is all moving forward, you know, your heel's actually supposed to be here, but it's here. Look how much you've taken out of the capsule. And of course, see how the hairline is curved because the foot's bending this way. Well, guess what? Then you start taking this toe back because you think it's long, and it's going to start bending this part back that way. And so you're bending the foot, which is exactly what's going on here. And so when she started allowing the heels to grow, and it removed all this anatomy from pushing up in there, the foot started expanding in both directions. So anyway, okay, well, that's all I want to talk on that.
Is it time for a break?
Yeah,
I
we
was
can take
just
a
gonna
break.
say that.
Yeah, let's take a break. Let me do under this. Okay, sounds good to me. Take a break. I'm gonna call my husband because he kind of needed some help, and I just might turn this over to you guys to be able to chit chat and talk about whatever you might want to talk about. Would that work? Hello?
That works. Are you coming back when you get, or don't you know what your husband wants?
Well, I know what he wants. He wants me to come out and move hay bales.
Oh, so you won't be back.
Well, he wants to show me what he wants me to do that I told him I'd do tomorrow. So I'm going to call him and see, because he really needs some attention.
You
Poor
have
guy.
to be a good wife.
Well, yeah, you know, they need help and stuff. And so I would like to be a good wife. I try to be a good wife. I cook him dinner and I wash the clothes and I do all that good stuff. Listen to him complain about his job. No, he never complains. But anyway, I'm going to call him. I wonder where my phone is. So let's go ahead and take a break, and I will come back here in 15 minutes and let you know one way or another. Okay.
All righty.
Okay. If you're
Sounds
watching
good.
this on
Thank you.
YouTube, you will have to fast forward it
All right.
to for 15 minutes or something. Okay. So it is 11:12. Let's come back here at, or no, it's 1:12 here. So let's come back at 1:25. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to go. Now I'm gonna stop the YouTube share, but you're all welcome to stay here and let's see. Wonder how do I get out of that YouTube thing? Let's see. Record, breakout, share, optimize. But I gotta go. I gotta go haul hay bales.
Okay, Linda, take care. Don't burn yourself out in the heat.
Oh, I'll be in an air-conditioned truck.
Oh, great. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, have a good day.
No, I will. I'm trying to find out how to just a minute. Stop share. Let's see. Okay, YouTube. Where are you? More. Oh, stop live stream. Okay. Well, anyway, so I guess that's it for this YouTube sharing of details of crazy hoof distortion. And how you know there are so many details to things in life. Sometimes you don't know certain things, and so it makes a whole difference when you learn that to the conclusion that you draw. Also, that's how people lie, by the way. It's not always in what they say, but it's in what they don't say, what you aren't told. It's called the lie of omission. See, this is a form of rhetoric and discourse that the ancient Greeks had to, they knew all about the different principles, when you're going to persuade an audience to believe a certain thing. What you left out was as important as what you put in, depending on what you want them to believe. See, this is an art form, actually. Okay, so, and how did people learn this? Because this is naturally what people do. You learn things, you add up all the different facts you learn about a different subject, and then you draw a conclusion, and that becomes the truth. Well, if you left something out, then you've made a false truth. See? So we don't want to make a false truth about the foot. So we keep studying, keep looking, keep gathering information, keep gathering more people, taking more pictures with more experiences. And so all these experiences add up to help us all learn the truth, to be able to help our horses and to help other people help theirs.